Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the HCL Domino AppDev State of the Nation 2022 edition. Heiko and I did this presentation last year, or part of this presentation last year. And so the idea is to talk about what's changed between last year and this year and give a bit of an update. And now we'll go forward. So again, thank you to the sponsors. Okay, let's jump into it. Just very quickly, I think everybody here is familiar with the fact that Heiko and I, along with other colleagues, are part of the Canadian user group, and we've got a whole bunch of videos on YouTube. I'll let you come back to that if you want to, or reach out to either of us to get more information about C3UG. And I won't dwell on myself too much, other than the fact that I'm based in Vancouver and am in my 30th year of doing Notes Domino stuff. HCL ambassador, as I mentioned, C3UG, OpenNTF, and I like hockey and other stuff. Go ahead, Heiko.
Yeah, couple words for me. I'm a software developer. Mostly currently, I'm working on as a full stack web developer with in the JavaScript world, so mostly Node.js and React. Also an HCL ambassador. Recently, I became a member at OpenNTF, and I'm also it's my 25th year, I think, working in that space. So, yeah, carry on.
Okay, so what do we want to talk about? Just a quick note about what I'll call the messaging that's in the marketplace right now, and how I interpret, or how we interpret, that messaging. And then talking about how are people building apps in 2022, and how does that overlay with tools that we have in Notes and Domino, and trying to narrow that down to what is it that you're trying to do, because based on what you're trying to do, there are a variety of options of how you can build apps in the Notes Domino world. And so we'll break it down and get into that kind of detail. But in terms of facts versus future, Heiko and I have been having this conversation for a while in the community, and we can get into speculation pretty fast, especially for those of us that have been around for a long time and just kind of have the history of how IBM handled the product line, and what we're seeing out of HCL and how that messaging is coming through. And as we were having that conversation, I said, you know what, I want to boil this down to what's a fact. What do we have right now? What do we know for sure that we have right now that we can use? And part of that frustration is that there is communication, there is messaging in the marketplace about future tools that are being built and fun things that are being worked on that really sound cool. But when we boil it down, it's like, do I have that? Can I work with that tool right now? And if the answer is no, then we got to make some tough decisions about, do we use the tools that are in the product, or do we delay our project that we're working on for whatever is going to be coming, not necessarily knowing when that might be. And I think people can think of examples of tools that have been announced and then did get delayed, and that had a negative impact on things. And of course, business moves forward, and there are competing products that are out there in the marketplace that people can use as alternatives. And so that was part of what this whole conversation was about, is like, okay, what do we got in the product today? And let's be very careful about considering or listening to what I'll call churn or noise that gets in the way of being able to make decisions about the tools that we have in the product line. Bottom line is, we know Domino is strategic for HCL, and that HCL is investing in the product. So that's the good thing. The thing that we got to be really careful about is, what do we got that we can work with today? And as I say, opinions saved for late night dark corners with beer. Funny that Tim is actually on this call, but we wanted to grab this slide out of Twitter that was shared, and this has been shared in multiple presentations since. In fact, I saw it in one of Andrew's presentations earlier today about what is on the roadmap and what is being planned, what's being talked about. So you see in the Rio Grande slide, or portion of the slide, designer next. And I think a lot of people from a building apps perspective have been waiting for things in Designer to either be added or fixed or what have you. This falls into that category of, yeah, it's being planned, but it's not there today. So we got to make some decisions about what we have in the product today. This is not intended to be a poor reflection, because like people who are losing their hair, you don't have to tell somebody that they're losing their hair. They know that they're losing their hair. We don't have to tell HCL that there's things that need to be fixed in Designer or for how do you build applications in Domino. HCL knows. Okay, I'm going to take this one and then I'll hand it over to Heiko. He mentioned that he's doing full stack development. I put this into the slide deck because if we think about how we're building applications in business, let's not say in Domino, but in business, the conversation around integration between tools, what are the latest tools that people are working with? What are the latest skill sets that kids are coming out of school with? People aren't coming out of school with LotusScript development skills. They could be coming out of school with Java development skills. Most likely they're coming out of school with JavaScript development skills. And so how do we overlay those skills and the tools and the integrations and the things that people want to do for business applications with things like Domino that we have in the marketplace? So this is something that we want to pay attention to, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail in a second. Go ahead, Heiko.
Yeah, this is just a reflection. And I think we had similar statistics in our last presentation. This is just to give us a little bit of a context in what environment are we currently in, and what is the rest of the world using outside of our yellow bubble. I mean, we are more or less thrown back on Designer and a couple of other external tools to work with Domino in the development space. But what is the rest of the world doing? And I mean, JavaScript is no surprise as one of the most popular languages that people are using. This stems, I think, from the reality that we have both front end and back end in JavaScript. So this is a vast variety. One can argue, and a couple of people argue with me in that named beer sessions all the time, that HTML and CSS is not really a programming language, but that is more or less, for me, is a minor detail. I think it shows a little bit of the popularity of what we have, and also around the environments that people are working in. So what are the tools, what are the operating systems that developers are on? So just to give us an impression of how far off are we with our Designer capabilities in Windows only. So it's not that big of a deal, as we can see right there. The Windows subsystem for Linux is interesting for me, as well as we do a lot of stuff right now in containerized versions, and having that in Windows helps a lot in running containerized and Docker systems in this subsystem. So that's a great extension here too. What platforms are developing on? I think that's also no surprise that the web environment is the most targeted environment. Also, what types of software do you develop? I mean, the good thing for us and the good news for us in the Domino environment is that all of these boxes can be ticked by Domino. The most important ones are ticked by Domino. So there's no space in this environment where people are targeting applications that Domino couldn't play a role in. And I think that's a good positioning from our perspective still. And then it boils down, what is the right tool for which application? And we've seen an upswing lately in the more Notes Classic related applications, especially with the upcoming of the Nomad Web components. So all of these, the good old stuff that you are been working with for decades now, add functions, LotusScript, and a couple of Java capabilities, are updated and are going forward into the future. So that's going to be something to look at. The browser stuff in classic development is still, for some customers, unfortunately, from my perspective, still valid to go forward with. We have the Nomad family for the browser stuff. We have the Leap offering in the low-code environment that allows us to develop quickly applications in a low-code fashion. And then we have XPages, which is a blessing and a curse on its own, right? And this is a pattern. This integration pattern is one thing that I think has contrasted from my observations between last year and this year. I have a lot more customers right now that are building apps that are running outside of Domino or core Domino. So a lot of my customers are moving from XPages into something like being it the Java-based middleware implementations plus JavaScript front ends or complete JavaScript front end applications, looking out from the outside world into the Domino world and integrating with services that Domino is providing, existing business logic that it is providing, or pure data. And there's a couple of ways to do that. Of course, we have the good old ones like Domino Access Services, which is, well, also like a long abandoned but still available option. The REST APIs are coming. This morning, Thomas Sample and Tim already got announced that they will be available with the new release in November 17th. The whole VoltMX new development environment will help us to build multi front-end applications with a single code base for also in the low-code for pro-coders environment. And then we have the traditional ones that help us in that space as well, like the AppDev Pack, the LotusScript stuff in a more classic way, XPages in their form of REST controls and stuff like that, and everything in the kitchen sink in Java, which in the kitchen sink I wouldn't call it the kitchen sink, but all the great stuff that, for example, Jesse has been doing around all the Java Jakarta JEE support for servlets and REST APIs and capabilities in that space. And yes, there's a new C API as well since last year. So for the hardcore people that need to build extensions of the Domino server, something like that, there's pieces there as well. And as I said, there's a couple of patterns from that I see emerging between this year and last year. And a lot of my customers have moved into a scenario like this. And it's not really, we have two of these scenarios that are pretty similar from an answering perspective. But these are patterns that are repeatedly showing up for me and my customers over the last year. So a lot of them have moved from being a pure Domino shop to MS365. And a lot of them have tried with more or less minor success to moving key applications over from Domino into the Microsoft space. Some of them are still transitioning, others have stopped those transitionings and are more or less only moving mail and calendar and productivity tools over, and now have the need to hook up those existing applications into a Microsoft environment, being it leveraging them in Teams, moving data or accessing data through SharePoint or the Power Platform and through Power Apps. And some of them even do for specific applications that stay on the Nodes client or in Nomad Web because they're not webified and they don't want to do that. They're thinking of how can we integrate and use services in the MS365 environment from our Domino applications. And there's a couple of answers that we put up down here. What are the tools that I could use for that? The problem is in my perspective, and that's pretty similar. I've spent some more time on this slide because the other one is more or less repeating. The problem that we see right here is not looking from the outside in. Domino is fairly well on the way to be a very good citizen in that environment if you combine it with technologies like single sign-on capabilities and joint identities and stuff like that. We have the REST APIs kind of being imminent. We have other tools that allow us to get access to the data also in a personalized way and stuff like that. So that is all good from looking from the outside in. Looking from the Nodes client and from the Nodes platform itself outside to integrate with other things, that's where from my perspective, the problem is a little bit more critical because the client extensibility in the Nodes client itself, as long as we don't have these renovated versions of the core capabilities that are up for the next releases sometime, It's dated, it's complex, and if you try to build a new composite application in one of the latest Nodes releases, that's a hassle on its own. And we all know the state of the extensibility of the VERSE client, for example, and also Nomad Web, as technological advanced as it is, it's still a very locked-in environment currently. Hopefully we'll see this is changing. But right now, these extensibility options are not really, easy or low-coded or low-code quality, whatever you might call that. And next slide, please. The same scenario I see is with Google. It's the same stuff. I have a lot of some customers, I would think 30% in my business area that have moved away from Domino, moved to Google Workspace. And we have the same patterns that we see in the Microsoft world and the Google world as well. Okay, so should I start, or do you want to start, Graham?
You've been talking for a while. This was going to be your slide, but let me chime in, and you can take a drink there. I'll take one too.
Okay.
So this slide and the next one are kind of fun, not kind of fun. They're pretty critical in terms of positioning, and we've used this for a couple of years now. So the idea being that the curve illustrates things that are new, things that are mature, and things that are on the downhill side of things and not receiving new investment. So if we start on the left and work our way to the right, I've marked VoltMX Go and the REST APIs in orange because they aren't technically in the product yet. They are, as far as we know, slated for the REST APIs are slated for the Danube release, which is going to be about a month from now, and VoltMX Go is supposed to be about a month after that. So that's good. And receiving new investment, so very much early on in the curve. I would argue, though, that the VoltMX Go courses, let's be honest, VoltMX and VoltMX Go are the same thing. It's just a licensing difference between the two of them. The VoltMX specifically is available now if you're using Sophie. Bottom line is that's a product that's been acquired, so it has already got some investment in it. We're not here to debate whether you want to pay the additional licensing to use it. It is a tool that does work with Domino. Right now, you got to do some work in order to make that happen. But if we go back to my earlier slide about what are the facts and what are you paying attention to, where's the investment that HCL is making? HCL is making an investment in VoltMX. And a lot of the conversation is around that. So whether you like it or not, and if you're telling me that you want to use XPages or you want to use Java or you want to use stuff that you've been using for the last 20 years, well, this slide is here to illustrate the fact that that's not where the investment is happening right now. So again, we're not going to debate whether we like it or not. This is what the facts are. Leap and the Nomad family also fall into the category of receiving investment. And certainly nobody can argue all of the things that John Curtis and team have been doing around DQL and the query results processor, and giving a lot of power to massive functionality behind the scenes, whether you're using Java or LotusScript to do queries on large data sets across multiple databases. So really important to understand where that investment is happening. Now, certainly that's not to diminish the fact that Java is a valuable tool and is powerful. Again, depending on your level of skills with Java, it's very much a viable option for you to use. And as we hit the downward slide here, there's I think kind of the conversation on XPages is quieted down a little bit, and everybody realizes that it is a functional tool, it is supported, it is in the product suite, it is something that you can use. And with the refresh to Java coming in the next release, I'm very interested. Sorry, the future release, TEMS. I'm interested to see how that impacts XPages. But really, it's not receiving a whole lot of attention and a whole lot of fanfare right now. With respect to LotusScript and app functions, we put the orange line pulling them back on the curve because, of course, with respect to the investment in VoltMX, LotusScript is getting a refresh. Now, is that in the product now? No, it's not. Is there a lot of talk that's going on the lab side about it? Yes, there is. That's all research. That's all trying to figure out what we can actually do with the product. You can't use it today, which is why we've left it where it is, with the expectation that it is going to move forward eventually. Of course, I think anybody who knows C3UG knows our passion for the AppDev Pack. The AppDev Pack is receiving less and less. It is considered a mature tool. It is in the product. You can use it. It is actually, quite frankly, pretty powerful. And it does fit the bill for your full stack web developer that's coming out of school with JavaScript skills. That's something that they can use in order to build applications on top of Notes and Domino. And of course, good old Domino Designer. When we first did this presentation a couple of years ago, Domino Designer was getting beat up pretty bad in it. At the time, personally, my experience was that it was really quite stable, and that's pushing well into version 9. As I've done more and more stuff in version 11, I'm starting to see more warts in Domino Designer. But actually, having said that, I'm on a rather large project and have been writing a lot of LotusScript in version 12 in the last 6 months. And I got to say, for doing that kind of stuff, rock solid, no problem, no complaints. Granted, not doing a lot of Java, not doing a lot of XPages. So we'll see. But anyway, the good news is, as I said before, HCL knows that they need to put some attention into Domino Designer, and it is on the roadmap, which is really quite valuable to see. I also wanted to throw in their OpenNTF. Of course, both Heiko and I now wear OpenNTF hats as well. And there's obviously lots of solutions and opportunities to augment your development tool set with solutions from OpenNTF too. Okay, you want this one, or do you want me to take this one?
Be my guest. I don't mind. I don't mind. So this is basically the we call it the C3UG Magic Quadrant of low code and investment, and this simply is a variety of the chart that you've seen before, where we just position those tools on what kind of coding style that we currently see, like the pro coding arena or the low code arena these products go to, and at what stage they are from their life cycle. So this is all, as everything, is our personal positioning. One might argue whether one or two or whatever isn't correct in that space, but it's only is there to illustrate that, for example, VoltMX and VoltMX Go, yes, they're debated as low-code tools, but they're positioned as low-code for pro coders. So that's something that helps you if you're a pro code shop and you have to be you're in the need of speeding up your development process, because you have to have you need to bring out more releases or more features faster to the table in your application environment. Those tools are there to help you with that massively, in comparison to the more classic pro coding tools that are maybe based on Java or other capabilities here. The REST APIs, interestingly enough, I have seen a positioning there that it's more low code than pro code. We position them a little upwards to the pro code sector as well, because they cater to both worlds from our experience. And of course, Domino Leap and Restyle especially is in the low code arena and getting some investment. Restyle, I think, wasn't on the latest lifecycle chart. This is one of the new things as well. So it's somewhat a application development capability. It has small bandwidth currently, and will receive some updates in the future, but it's definitely something for what it's targeted in the low-code segment.
It's a modernization tool that lets you brush up your applications without really doing a heck of a lot. So that's why it's on the list.
Right.
All right. We're actually rocketing along here. But anyway, the whole 9 yards. Where do you want to start, Heiko?
Yeah, so this is basically the mother of all charts that we came up with. So it's like we try to compress everything in the kitchen sink into this chart. So basically, we have the first column are the use cases that you can think of. So if you want to build mobile apps, what toolings and what capabilities in the Domino space can you use for that, and what is potentially useful for all of those things? And that's the way you can go downwards line by line and see for which use case do we think which tool set is the appropriate tool set to go with. We added a couple of things. Data integration is something that made its way this year, and also the Microsoft and Google integration aspects made their way into the chart this year. And also, of course, we added a couple of columns as well, like the VoltMX column is definitely new. The restyle capability is new. So there's some movement here, and also the REST APIs. I think we had them last year already in this earlier versions that were for testing. But
yeah, I italicized it just because, again, it's not officially in the product yet.
Yeah, right.
It's a difficult dance to make when there are actually presentations about well, to pick on Keep. There have been presentations about Keep for the last 3 years. And yet it's still not a product that's available for us to use officially, or a tool in the product that we can use officially. And this was going back to what I was talking about at the beginning, about being very careful about listening to kind of the hype, and being more clear on, when is that going to be available, and why are you talking about it now if it's not in the product yet? Like I get marketing, and I get creating interest, and I get soliciting feedback. But if we're being very clear and wearing our CIO hat and saying what tools can we use to do the things that we need to do today, you kind of got to be real black and white and say that's not on the list. We can't use that today. Or if you've got the luxury of being able to delay your project until you think it's going to be available, well, okay, that's a decision that you can make as well. So a word about Domino Designer. I think we've probably touched on this enough already. We've already touched on it enough. The thing that I wanted to bring up was at the bottom of the list there, and the fact that source control. This is something that we've talked about a little bit in other sessions today already, but we also brought it up last year, and that is that the world is using source control. And again, this isn't something that HCL doesn't know, but we're looking forward to being able to do better source control integration in the near future. Maybe I'll leave it at that.
Right.
And how about that? We blasted through all of our content in a half an hour. Why don't we open it up for some questions while we've got some extra time here?
So you already had a question from Bill about positioning of LotusScript and add functions and stuff in regards of their transitioning over to the VoltMX platform in the future. And we already said that in this last slide that we had these arrows in for those things to move them back into the life cycle, into something new. So they will be making their way back as soon as those new capabilities will be surfacing. In the current state, there's still some investment and there's still some enhancements, but that's why we have them in this in the current positioning, and not so forward-looking ways. We position them in the downward area of the life cycle. Tim says source control has already been worked on, and number 2 on my list of must fix. That's excellent. Great to hear, Tim. We'll make sure to pester you long enough so you'll stick to your grounds there. Thanks. I know you all have been into the AppDev Pack. Could you comment on where it is and where you believe it is going, and your recommendations? Well, I would pass that question right on to Tim, because he's the guy actually. If we have you here, and you're able to answer that question for us, Tim, that would stop us from speculating, because that's something that's definitely not in our ballpark to decide where this piece of the portfolio is going and where it is moving.
Okay, well, Tim's giving us an answer to that one. Jesse says, in the realm of low-code options, do you see a good bet as far as something that would scale up to a large, complex app? Well, for me anyway, everything I hear about VoltMX is that it will. I haven't personally given it a test run. Heiko, have you got anything there?
I did we were working with it currently. A couple of my people are, and I think that's the big problem is and from that perspective, I like this positioning that Andrew Manby did with VoltMX pretty well, because if you look at VoltMX from a ease of tool use capability perspective in regards of targeting a citizen developer, that's definitely not the tool to go with. It is a tool that allows you to quickly build complex and large applications with low code capabilities, but it's for people that are actually able to code, right? You have to know what you're doing. It's not something like it's not a tool that you can give an Excel jockey to build an application on top of Domino. That's definitely not, I think, not the targeted audience. So from my perspective, this low code thing has two angles to look at. One thing is, what is the target audience that you want to address with it? And does low code mean I'm targeting citizen developers? Then Leap would be the answer for that, but the Leap part is limited in the applications that it's capable to build, and that's intentional. The other low code stuff like VoltMX is built for pro coders, and those people know what they want to build, and they use those tools not to hide the complexity of coding from them, but to speed up their development cycle. And that's a totally different approach in the low code arena. I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully.
Another AppDev Pack question. Is the AppDev Pack fully functional in Java? I haven't played with it in Java.
As far as I know, the features in the Node.js environment and the Java environment are on par. So everything that's there for Node.js is there for Java as well. Is it fully available? I mean, if we have a lot of functional gaps that I would like to see fixed in the AppDev Pack, but those are also there for both language bindings. So whether you can work with it from a features and function point of view depends on the functionality that is there. But from my understanding, the features and functions are par in both language bindings, so JavaScript and Java.
Okay, and I haven't seen anything here from Tim on the AppDev Pack. The one thing that I'll say, the thing that we know is that the AppDev Pack is receiving less investment right now, and the REST APIs are receiving more investment. And for me, the AppDev Pack, what it gives you is it gives you a blank piece of paper where you can do your own JavaScript development, you can build your own APIs, you can completely control how your application works. Or you can use, well, there's a whole long list of things that we showed there, but what you can use is the REST APIs. That's receiving investment right now. It is getting marketing play from HCL. The thing about the REST APIs is that they're essentially pre-canned APIs. So it's more for your less experienced JavaScript developer, let me say. It's basically the kind of thing that's set up where you can make the calls to do queries into the database, and you don't necessarily get the flexibility to do custom queries in the way that you want to. So AppDev Pack gives you more flexibility and more functionality, more development time, and maybe not necessarily the kind of investment that we would like to see otherwise. REST APIs, getting the investment, easier to use, faster to develop, less flexibility. There's your trade-off. I think maybe I'll leave it at that. And if anything, Tim's probably made a bit of a note talking about or how to respond to that. By the way, I just got a direct message from Tim. Spent 3 hours with Andrew Manby this morning on a whiteboard working out what we have and what we might do with everything and who uses what. As to the AppDev Pack, I still can't say anything with 100% confidence right now. We're still using it in the product to create solutions like the Domino Nomad server, so it's not going away anytime soon. There you go. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Awesome.
And the last one is just a thank you from Bill. By the way, I appreciate that feedback, Bill. If people have questions about those slides, we're trying to answer questions, but again, like Heiko said, these slides are our opinion. Now they're based on experience and based on what we're seeing with the customers that we're working with. I actually love the term, the C3UG magic quadrant here. But if you've got feedback on this, if you think we're wrong, if you think, or you want to question why it is that we put something where we put it, would love to have that conversation with you. So by all means, reach out to us. These slides are going to be available as a download after the presentation is done, so you're welcome to take them away and kind of drink them in. Yeah, there you go. By the way, I was remiss earlier. We have a new member of C3UG, and I drew a complete blank when I was introducing C3UG earlier. Michelle Smith is an admin based in Nova Scotia, and she's joined the C3UG organizing group. And we're very happy to have her input too. So more people participating and sharing what they know with the community. Heiko, with that, I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we've got two more questions.
Okay.
Bill is asking whether VoltMX is non-Domino, upon what is it based? It's an own development environment, right? It's a completely separate environment that you install separately that brings in an own IDE and its own layer of capability of components and code generators. So it's an own platform that HCL acquired from Temenos, I think,
yeah,
was the initial developer of it. So it's its own platform rather than that. And Sarah asks, what about container technologies? Do you think developers should invest? Yes, I think so, definitely. Containers, if you wrap your head around containerization one time, and you will find that, especially if you're not only working in the Domino space, but maybe in other areas and with different products as well, containerization helps a great deal in development environments, from my perspective.
Going back to Bill's question, so VoltMX as an app dev tool in the Domino world, being non-Domino, falls into this external app category. The idea being that you're going to build an integration layer that allows VoltMX to talk to Domino databases. And out of the box, the expectation is that VoltMX is going to provide you the tools that you can use, Domino REST APIs, to do those queries into your Domino data. But at the end of the day, it's a front-end tool that works really well. Again, multi-experience, mobile, lots of things that you get out of the box that just, as developers, we've been fighting with for years to try and make work in a Domino environment. Now this makes that part of it easy. It just happens to be outside of Domino, and you got to build the connectors to talk to your Domino data. And I'll ask the last question from Colin. What's Heiko's favorite beer that he brews himself?
Well, actually, it's a Belgish blonde currently, so in reminiscence to Theo and Engage, I got into Belgic beer, and one of my favorites that I'm currently brewing, especially also for my wife, is a Belgish blonde. So that's probably my favorite currently.
Okay, Colin's taken this completely off the rails. My best garden crop this year was tomatoes. With that, let's say thanks to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your conference. We appreciate your time and your engagement. And by all means, if you got questions about what we're talking about, reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you.